Hello and welcome to Creating Canon. This is your hosts, AJ Hamilton and Nidge Plunkett.
I actually really like that name, so I'm going to stick with it. Nidge Plunkett. Nidge Plunkett at your service.
That's right. It is Nicholas C. Pappas.
That is correct.
Nicholas. Hey, I got it right.
Yay!
Hey, on the second
Nidge
try. But yeah.
Plunkett.
Nidge Plunkett. Hello, everybody. We are Creating Canon. We talk about canon movies, all things canon. Not actually canons.
No, not actual, not like Gods and Generals or Gettysburg, but everything that Menachem Golan and Yoram Globus.
That's right.
The Go-Go Boys.
Mm-hmm.
The Canon Film Company.
Oh, the canon of canon.
The canon of canon. We also, we do go back and do earlier canon films, but we are square in the middle today.
Oh, yay.
Of the Go-Go Boys years with the 1986 hit? 1986 film?
Movie.
Firewalker.
Firewalker.
Starring...
Oh, the Chuck
Norris.
Mr. Norris.
And Louis Gossett Jr.
Mm-hmm.
Man, we should just get into this.
I think we should.
We should get into this.
Hey, tell us a tale.
This is
Mr. Plunkett.
Max and Leo are a couple of adventurers on the hunt for some gold, following, I don't know, mapper, I guess, or something brought to them by a random woman named, according to IMDb, Patricia.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Firewalker. Brought to you by Perrier and Polaroid.
There was absolutely no motivation in this movie that made sense.
Yeah, it's one of the notes that I actually have for it is it feels like an exquisite corpse of a screenplay.
Yes. In
that it doesn't matter what happened before or what's going to happen next. Mm-hmm. Just
push on towards the thing.
There are lines.
Yeah.
And there are scenes.
And there are motivations, as I said, that feel random.
Yeah.
At best. I mean, off their fucking heads, I think, at worst, because there were scenes where everyone's character completely shifted.
Yeah.
Or they just gave up on their core values. If they ever
I was going to say you would have to have a core value first.
No, they were just paint by random numbers, and somebody was numerilliterate?
What?
Like illiterate, but...
Numerilliterate?
Illinumeral?
Illinumeral?
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Oh, boy.
This has nothing to do with that.
Yeah.
But
I think I'm going to throw out there part of the confusion of this movie in that, my plot summary was actually a fairly good representation of the movie.
Actually.
But I'm going to read the short summary that's on IMDb because I also think it's very funny that it's a pair of adventurers try to track down an ancient Aztec / Mayan / Egyptian / Apache hoard of gold.
Horde? Is that right?
Yeah, that works. Sure. But that's how confused this movie is. It's like, and we really have a man named Robert Gosnell, who's our screenplay writer, to thank for it.
Well, good for that guy.
And he did not do much else that of note.
What? Oh my
Surprisingly.
goodness. Yeah.
We should mention that this is directed by J. Lee Thompson.
Yes.
He's had 2 movies on the podcast before, so about 20% of our movies at this point.
Yeah, about that.
Are him. 10 to Midnight and King Solomon's Mines.
Right.
But he was also Death Wish 4, King Giant Forbidden Subjects. He did like 9 or 10 movies with Charles Bronson. And he was nominated for Best Director for Guns of Navarone. So
wow. So he's going to be a big returning fellow.
We'll see him a ton.
Yeah.
And I have to say, he should know better. He should know better.
Oh. Yeah. But in this situation, in this canon situation, as a director, do you really get to choose your scripts, or are you just locked into them?
That's a really great... I feel like at this point, we've got Chuck Norris.
Yeah.
Him and Charles Bronson are the 2 biggest canon stars. They're huge stars. They're both locked into
7-year deals?
Yeah, 7-year deals. It's like that old school, Hollywood golden era studio system contracts, right? And whatever they wanted to do is basically what was going to be made.
Sure.
For the most part. So I think you're right. I don't know if Mr. Thompson there had much of a say over what he is doing.
He probably just got saddled with it, and they were like, make something good with this.
Do something. Yeah. Actually, I think there's a couple of great Chuck Norris quotes about this movie that I think really set us up for what we are in store for.
Oh.
Yes.
Oh, are we?
First of all, I'll read the first one, you read the second?
Sure, sounds good.
Norris says of the character Max Donegan that he plays in this movie, it's a detour. Oh. Max Donegan is really the lighter side of Chuck Norris, speaking in the third person.
Of course.
It's just an open, friendly, warm film with a lot of humor. It has the adventures of Romancing the Stone and Raiders of the Lost Ark, the humor of the movie Crocodile Dundee, where the situations cause the humor, and the companionship between the two guys like Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid.
Could you set up your film to fail harder with the comparison to those movies?
Seriously, speaking of fail, this is a 0% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Boom,
0%.
Ow, big old goose egg.
Yeah, and I could see like there was a crocodile in the movie.
The knife. I don't know.
The knife. Oh boy, that's not a knife. This is a knife. It's actually a huge portion of this movie is about a knife.
Yes.
But oh my god.
Do you want me to read the second?
Yes, please.
Second quote.
I do want to say what's interesting is you could totally see all of the. I actually didn't see Raiders of the Lost Ark as much as I saw a huge ripoff of Temple of Doom.
Sure.
And I didn't see Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. That's insane to me.
No. Yeah.
Romancing the Stone sort of makes sense in that it's like two dudes and a girl.
That are looking for treasure.
And Crocodile Dundee is actually he's in Romancing the Stone. They're looking for Kathleen Turner's sister.
Yes.
I think that's what they're looking. Anyways,
sounds
it doesn't
right.
matter.
Yeah. Well, hey, Corky wore that big sort of hat. It looked like a Crocodile Dundee hat.
What?
Remember? John Rhys Davies?
With an incredible performance.
Also, it's kind of a ripoff of King Solomon's Mines.
Yes, he kind of had that.
Yeah, let's do that again.
Let's just make that.
Just simpler. I mean, honestly, I liked King Solomon's Mines, in retrospect, way more than this.
This one was tough.
This was... so, he says, whether I do... lighter type films beyond this one will be determined by how Firewalker does, said Norris. The audience tells you what you'll be doing or not doing. Like Stallone, he'll never do Rhinestone again.
Which is funny because there's no way that Chuck Norris ever did a comedy again after this.
Oh, not at all. But
it's...
to say that this is a comedy is a stretch. It's written like a comedy.
Yes.
It's not performed like a comedy.
Well, that's the thing. That is, I think, tough is I think it actually is performed like a comedy. It's just that Norris...
By an action star.
It's like he has no sense of humor.
No.
Louis Gossett Jr. does all he can.
He does.
I love Louis Gossett Jr. and he's hard to watch in this.
Yeah, he would be probably the best part of
it, yeah.
Yeah.
And I also love Jonathan Rhys Davies, and he was tough to watch.
He was unintelligible.
Oh, that was like a weird southern accent. But also with, like, the Jonathan Rhys Davies
And
thing.
he would slip back into... I mean, he had 2 scenes, and he kept slipping it out of his accent.
Yeah, it kept going back and forth. It was amazing. Menachem Golan actually showed a lot of skepticism when Norris wanted to do this movie, which should tell you if Menachem Golan is skeptical of a movie,
and seems to understand it,
you should stop.
Yeah.
You should just be like, you know what? We're good. We're good.
This guy, I trust this guy.
This guy made for $8 million, made 11.8.
Yeah,
almost killed Cannon because it went into financial receivership right after this movie came out.
Oof. Hey, but I mean, 11.8 million.
I
back
mean, it
in
made
the
its money.
80s. Yeah, I mean, maybe not if they spent the proper amount of money on advertising.
Yeah,
but
God knows if they did.
This movie starts out as a question mark and then just goes downhill from there.
Yeah, I think there was a point where the movie's an hour and 45 minutes long. We were an hour and 15 to an hour and 20 minutes in, and I looked at AJ and I was like, do you know what's happening? Do you know why anything is happening yet?
Well, we also paused it at about 25 minutes, feeling like it was in the at least second act.
Yeah.
This has so many parts to it that just tie in irreconcilably. There are like multiple action scenes that have no end to them.
Yep.
No start to them either, kind of. A lot of this, honestly, it's a theme of the whole movie because they keep starting scenes where either Max or Leo are talking about a former adventure that they had been on, or somewhere in the war or something like that, and they start in the middle of the story and then kind of finish it. I don't know. It all just feels like that. It feels unfinished.
It feels like a sequel to a movie that was never made.
Oh, that's an interesting... Yeah.
At the beginning of the movie, we're introduced to these two guys, and they're just sort of like driving around the desert with inexplicably like 50 dune buggies.
It was like a mini Mad Max.
It was like a mini Mad Max, and they were all bad Arab stereotypes chasing them. Mm-hmm. And then once they're caught by these bad Arab stereotypes, they are staked to the ground in the middle of the desert, and they're like, oh, I wish I had a beer in Arizona. And the other guy's like, well, that's 5,000 miles away. And all of a sudden, a man they call the General, who happens to be Chinese, of all things.
Referred to on IMDb as Chinese Man.
As Chinese Man. His dune buggy is filled with, like, paper Chinese lanterns.
And flags and everything.
Chinese flags, and... There's a guy that has an umbrella that is probably Japanese.
The fact that we don't know means they probably didn't know either.
And this is the whole point of the movie, right? Yeah. And they're like, oh, we'll get out of this one. Yeah, we will. And that's what I mean by, like, it feels like a sequel. Like, that feels like the opening to a movie where we know and love
they're
Leo
at it
and
again.
Matt. Yeah, like, oh, these two scamps.
Also, just a nitpick. We never figure out why they were being chased or what the guy was taking back from them or if they had tried to steal something from him.
Or where they were. Like, AJ,
I
still don't know where they are.
I want to put, like, a radius on a map and be like, what's 5,000 miles away from Arizona with... 200 miles worth of desert?
And that was another thing, too, is, like, all of a sudden they cut from that scene in the desert to another scene in the desert where they're in Arizona.
Yep.
And they cut from, like, that scene in Arizona to New Mexico, ? To then...
Don't know.
Someplace in Central America. AJ and I actually paused the movie and spent 25 minutes trying to find a map that looked like a map on the screen.
Well, we were searching all of the different names, location names on the map that kept bringing up random Instagram model names.
Yes.
I was like, what is... These are not places, and they never have been. Otherwise, they would have been,
They would have been found. We would have found them.
Yeah.
So the best we could figure out was that they were somewhere in, what was it?
Honduras, I think.
Honduras, maybe?
Honduras or somewhere in the Guatemala area.
There was like
I don't know.
Well, that was the hard part, too, is because they actually said this line where it was like, they needed to go directly halfway in between Aztec and the Mayans, which...
And she randomly sticks the knife into the map. And they were like, yeah, that's where we go.
We'll go. Like, yeah, this girl who comes out of nowhere and brings them this map. Like,
this other map.
I feel like we are so disjointed right now trying to explain this movie.
We're doing our best with this. Honestly, my one big complaint, do you remember Captain America Civil War, where they threw the huge location titles up on the screen? Would have welcomed those absolutely.
I would have welcomed just a small title.
Anything
that
really
was like, hey.
I think it would have helped us
follow
where we're these things because, all right, this was clearly a bare bones script.
Yes.
It was action set piece, traveling set piece, action set piece, suspense set piece, friend set piece,
and none of
these crammed together.
And that was the crazy part too. Is like, I never at any point was clear about where they were starting from and where they were going to, other than they wanted gold. But I don't know how any step of the journey was them getting closer to their goal.
There was no logical solving of step to get to next step.
Yeah.
It just always felt like they were being led somewhere by something, and they just kept running into obstacles, which didn't seem to be that bad.
Well, they weren't even obstacles in the way of their goal. It was just obstacles in, like, life. And I know that sounds, like, different. Like, that sounds weird, but, like, there was a scene where they're on a train dressed as priests and a nun.
Yeah.
And they're just soldiers trying to stop the train, but I wasn't clear on why the soldiers were stopping the train. The soldiers weren't looking for them.
I feel like a lot of this was I mean, we ran into it a lot. Incredibly stereotypical of cultures.
Yes.
Just to imagine that this always happens in these terrible Central American countries.
Totally.
It's a lawless dictatorship.
Yep.
And I mean, there was racism towards black people and Native Americans and Chinese and all this stuff. I just want to jumping back, the very first proper scene in this movie at the bar.
Wait, there was a proper scene in this movie?
Okay. True. Taking it back.
Yeah.
First scene after the title card. Let's say that.
Okay.
So this girl comes to the bar looking for two dumb guys. Essentially, that's what she says.
Yeah.
To help her in a search for a thing. Because she has a map and she's been having these visions throughout her childhood up until now. She finds these guys. They start getting shot by arrows
from some random
was
dude.
Was that Coyote?
No, that was not
Okay,
Coyote.
that was just somebody he was controlling as well. Because there's some psychic powers along this movie that are very downplayed. So they say, yeah, we'll help you. Let's get out of here. We're getting shot. This must be worth it. They go to this tomb, which they almost can't find because Chuck Norris can't look past a tree.
A small tree.
A very small tree.
Yeah.
They go in. She thinks that she's gotten visions of people sleeping. Oh, skeletons. How many?
A skeleton of them.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
Thank you.
that was the pun I made. You're gonna make me pun on the podcast.
I didn't groan at all.
You're gonna make me puncast.
That's my favorite part. They find a glowing skull that somehow fit a dagger inside of it.
Well, it was the dagger that was glowing
inside of the skull.
Inside of the skull,
right?
Which you're right. I don't know how how a dagger fit inside a skull.
Anyway, yeah. Then does multiple people from that tomb start attacking them.
Who seemed to be either like Aztec natives? Question mark.
Like from the past.
From the past.
Yeah.
And they like killed them all.
They killed them all without asking any questions.
Like just a huge they're in their place.
Yeah.
Looking for their gold and they just committed genocide.
I actually think that there is a lot more psychic shit going on here. I think that Coyote was controlling all these people because right before that we see a far off shot of him, and then why does that guy jump off the cliff?
I think that was
when he has
Coyote.
It must have been, right?
By the way, we keep saying El Coyote. She says, Patricia says to...
Oh, God.
She says, we're going to do this thing, but you're going to think I'm crazy. There is and I'm quoting here, a red cyclops, a gigantic red cyclops
with long black hair,
who's going to come and try to kill us. Mm-hmm. Well, when we finally see, I'm thinking oh, cool, monster.
Yeah.
No, it's red, Native American guy with an eye patch.
Yep.
Played by Sonny Landham, who I think most people know from The Predator. He was the Native American dude in The Predator.
Sure.
He was also in 48 Hours.
And The Warriors.
Mm-hmm. He's one of those classic action dudes from this time period.
Yeah.
But yeah, so again, El Coyote is a...
I definitely think that it was... racial stereotype, but also they were trying to do that mysticism of her being able to see visions, but not completely accurate visions. I don't know.
There was also a guy named Tall Eagle, who...
Right.
There was one scene where Tall Eagle and El Coyote were... each controlling...
Mind fighting each other.
But by mind fighting each other, they were controlling two actual humans.
Yep.
And then, Tall Eagle wins, and we never see Tall Eagle again.
Oh, no.
That was
No, doesn't he smile at the end or something? No.
Did he come back? I don't know.
I don't know.
Fuck if I know.
Didn't matter.
Oh, my God.
Really didn't play into it. The fact that he gave her some dust protected her.
Yes, that is a true thing.
Or something. God, this movie hurts my brain because it is just so they sleep off I don't know. I'm Jesus Christ.
Watching you try to figure this movie out is actually more entertaining than any section of the movie.
At one point, they are all trying to figure out where they're going or what they're doing, and she walks over. Patricia walks over, stabs the knife into the map, like we said, then passes out into Chuck Norris's arms for no reason. I don't know if it's a joke. There's never any reference back to it that, gosh, she sure went out, or what happened to her. It's just, as with everything, like, it's
meaningless.
Weird stuff is passed off as, that's the way things go.
Well, this actually brings up a great point, because right after that, there's the scene where they're in the airplane flying to wherever they're flying to in South America.
Yeah.
Or Central America.
Central America, yeah.
And the pilot comes out, and he's got a parachute on.
Yeah.
And the engine is blowing black smoke, and Louis Gossett Jr. is like, what's happening? What's happening? What's happening? What's happening?
Yeah.
And the pilot's like, oh, everything's good. Don't worry about it. Everything's going to be fine.
It's just that the...
It's just that the engines... We just blew an engine. The engine's on fire. And Louis Gossett Jr. and the girl look at each other like, oh no, bad things are going to happen. And then the plane lands like normal.
And, well, the pilot says, we're landing soon anyway.
Yeah. The plane lands. There is nothing wrong. There's no reason for the pilot to have a parachute.
No.
And Chuck Norris just wakes up and goes, not a bad flight, huh? There was no real danger. No. Nothing actually happened. It was just like... We were quote-unquote worried that the plane might crash, but at the end of the day, there was no plane crash. No, there was no danger.
That would have been so cool if they had to jump off, and then they landed in a small village or something, or
like they landed in a small raft at like the top of a mountain covered with snow, and then they go down and they land in some village in India.
Sure.
We have to find the Shankara stones. Oh, wait, never mind.
No, wait, you're thinking...
No, hold on, shit, that was... Yeah, no, sorry, my bad.
Thinking about something else.
Yeah, I was thinking about a different movie.
Better movie?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is another example of characteristics that we've not seen or don't match with the characters themselves, or the very loose history that we've gotten from them. They've apparently been doing this for years.
10 years.
10 years, and they've done 15 adventures?
15 adventures.
Why
Max
did
and
he
Lou.
even say
Leo, I mean.
100? He said hundreds. He's like, 15. Why does that fight have to do with anything? But they get into their lodgings, and Leo is complaining about them like he's never had to sleep on the ground around a campfire or something like that. It's like, you have a bed, bro, for a night. This is better than a lot of stuff that you're going to experience and have probably experienced. You were laying on the ground in the desert at the beginning of this movie. What are you complaining about? And what does this additional annoyance add to the whole, adventure? What is the fact that you're annoyed? That's real compelling.
Yeah. Not only that, but then they go and have dinner.
Or drinks.
At a bar.
Yeah.
Which was one of my favorite scenes of the movie.
Fair enough.
In that... For no reason, they walk up. So first of all, we have to know that Chuck Norris, the entire movie, has a cigar in his mouth that is never lit, never once lit. So they get to this bar, and to walk into the bar, they just, like, for no reason, punch out two dudes.
Three
dudes.
Yeah.
Walk into the bar, and then...
There's nothing that led them to this bar either.
No, they just walk in, this random place, and they ask, I'll give you $100 American if you can tell me any information
about pictures that they've taken.
So,
which we never get to see.
We never actually see the pictures.
Assuming that there's something from the Mayan Aztec tomb thing that they were in.
Egyptian / Apache.
Sure.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And then for no reason, Chuck Norris starts chewing gum.
Yeah.
Just so he can take it out and hand it to Louis Gossett Jr.
Yeah.
After he got fight
choked by
everybody in the bar. And that scene was great because there was definitely there was like 40 tables in the bar and every single table was broken.
Yeah, all of the windows.
Because Chuck Norris, threw someone.
Poorly, cheaply made bar.
There's like 4 windows. My favorite part about the windows, though, is the fact that this dude flies through the window and there's like an old Mexican man drinking a beer out of outside. And then like a dude flies out a different window and like that same Mexican man is drinking a beer.
Yeah.
So in my head, I created a whole story of that man standing outside being like, just, nice cerveza tonight. Whoa, shit. Okay, you know what? This is crazy.
I'm gonna go to the other window.
I'm gonna go somewhere else. Oh shit! Fuck. What is? And then like goes. Why are these people flying through all these windows? That's the story I want to see.
And we may be referring to these guys as Mexican, even though they are probably supposed to be Central American.
Oh, that's what I was gonna say.
This is all shot in Mexico.
This is all shot in Mexico. But that was the other thing I was gonna say that's really confusing is because we also looked this up. The Aztecs were in Mexico, and the Mayans were also in Mexico. They dropped down a little bit further.
Yeah.
But, like, if it's somewhere in between, the movie 100% has to take place in Mexico.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it can't be Central America.
I feel like they just made up the history for this and didn't even go any further. They didn't world build at all.
No.
Because there is there's never any explanation why the knife, which ends up being a key, is in New Mexico or Arizona or wherever the hell she went with the first map.
Yes.
But then we go to this other place and it's thousands of miles away, clearly. Oh, but sorry, wanted to jump back to that bar, especially with the gum.
Oh my god, the best part of the movie.
At
so
the
Louis
very-
Gossett Jr.
Yeah, he's held on like a
To the
very
gum.
good friend. Held on to the gum because Chuck Norris asked him to. Then he says, "Hey, I got you gum," but he's already put new gum into his mouth.
Chuck Norris has.
Then they're walking out. He's like, "Okay, you
see him holding the gum
you
walking out.
Yes. He closes his hand. He's walking out. The next shot outside is him tucking in his pants, so it looks like he's sticking the gum down his pants. You're welcome, America. Why?
Crotch gum.
Crotch gum for later.
Cuckum.
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 Cum gum.
Cum gum.
Yeah, that was the easier one.
So, I mean, we're hitting this repeatedly, is that none of these set pieces add up to anything. They're all...
Because there's no connective tissue to any of this.
Well, that's part of... Yeah, I mean, look...
There's nothing that builds on the last scene. Like, they didn't learn... Well, they learned one thing from that dude that I recognized. I can't remember his name.
Ian Abercrombie.
Ian Abercrombie. He says that there's Gutierrez, that's how he pronounces it, in this little town that they're going to take a train to. And that's where they have the train where it's raided, and then they have to give the last rites to this guy who didn't have his documentation, and then his documentation gets found and he's still alive, and they're apparently magic. What am I saying? Like, anyone listening to this out of context is so confused right now.
Okay, so here's a couple of things I just want to say about this movie.
All right.
First of all, there is something interesting about the girl comes to them and says to the bartender, originally at the beginning of the movie, Patricia comes and says, I'm looking for two stupid guys to help me on this adventure.
Yeah.
Which the last people I would want are two stupid guys. I would want two competent guys if my life might be in danger. But that's
she's not even an adventurer. She's a paralegal from LA, right?
Well, that's what she says, and I don't know if that's true or not.
Okay.
Because she sort of just blurts it out in a scene.
Yeah.
But all of the characters in this movie are dumb as rocks. Like, she is, both dudes. Mm-hmm. Like, everyone just makes bad decisions left and right.
Yes.
And I don't know if that's a product of screenplay. I don't know if that's a product of director or actors. And I think, just to step back too, what's really fucking fascinating, as you were talking about the movie, I suddenly felt like I was listening to like a 5-year-old explain his favorite episode of Dora the Explorer, where he's like, and then Dora, and then this, and then Swiper, and then Dora, and then this happens, and then, oh wait, you know what I forgot to tell you? I forgot to tell you that this happened earlier, because I feel like that's in its core.
Yeah.
Is the whole problem with the movie is that because nothing adds up,
right?
It's hard to even keep the events straight. It's hard to understand why these things are important.
Like, there was a point where they go to this town, it's burned to the ground by ... Yeah. We don't know. Probably the guys that they run from later. But at that point, their lead is dead.
Yeah.
So they are in the middle of a foreign country, just in a massive jungle, and there are literally no additional clues that lead them to the place that they eventually find. Like, if they had said, her visions are leading them. That's great.
Great, I
that
get it.
actually would be very cool. Like,
Got
she
it.
has this idea during the night, they wake up, and then you actually were dreaming of the river. Great.
Right.
Follow the river. If that had been the connective tissue, I would have loved that. But there's never any evidence of that.
No.
Or that the coyote is actually leading them to wherever.
Because what ends up happening, you're right, because they find this burned out village where they're looking for Gutierrez, which I think is supposed to be Gutierrez.
Yeah.
And,
Come on, Abercrombie.
Yeah.
And Fitch.
And all that happens is like a car pulls up and they run into the banana fields. And then they go running from the banana fields with all these guys following them. And then they lose the guys. They go to bed. They wake up and there's some dude they're standing there with a gun.
Yep.
And they go and they like this guy with the gun brings them somewhere.
Beheaded.
And it just like weirdly turns out that like some random dude that Chuck Norris's character was in Vietnam with, is now the head of this guerrilla army.
He wants to be the king.
And that's Jonathan Rhys-Davies, right? Like that's where he comes up.
What a good time.
So either one of two things happened.
Yeah.
So good screenwriting works this way.
Oh, tell me.
I will tell you. Event A happens.
Yeah.
And because event A happens, event B happens. And then because event B happened, there is no other choice but for event C to happen.
Of course.
And then event C happens, and either D or E must happen.
Yeah.
So one of those happens. And every choice builds on something, right?
Yes. Yeah.
This was more of like an anecdote where A happened, and then B happened, and then C happened, and then D happened,
and we just
then
kept
E.
walking forward and figured we'd find something.
Yeah. So either the screenplay was written poorly,
yes,
and it was just a bunch of random things that were like taped together, or all of that stuff was there, but they decided to cut it for the quote-unquote comedy, which I don't know what's worse.
Well, honestly, though, didn't you feel like the times that whenever they were just having a straight acting moment, let's call it a character building moment, don't you feel like they just kind of improv'd it?
Oh, 100%, because like there's one section where we clearly see her sleeping in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
And then like 10 minutes later in the movie, Chuck Norris is like, tell me something personal about yourself. And she goes on this weird monologue of like, ever since I've been little, I've had these weird visions that people hate me for. And I spent 400 years in an insane asylum. And I also think the crab is a pope. And the pope is actually a wolf child.
But you probably think I'm a fruitcake.
But you probably think I'm weird. And Chuck Norris just goes, I was actually just wanted to know if you slept in the nude. Then she goes, I do. And it's like, no, wait, hold on. I watched that part of the movie. You don't.
You weren't.
Also, that's really weird that his response to this insane fucking monologue is simply like, I just wanted to know what your boobs look like.
Listen, I was flirting with you. I didn't want to know something substantial.
I did not care to know that you think the crab is a pope.
Do you think that this is about getting to know each other?
No.
It's not. It's about getting you into bed.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much it.
That's it.
Because both of us are the leads in a movie. We have to.
That's the way it works.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like, I mean, I don't even know what else to say other than like that's what I mean when I said like it feels like the exquisite corpse of script writing, which I say that thinking everyone knows what that is, but the exquisite corpse is when somebody writes down a sentence and then you fold the paper over and someone else writes down another random sentence.
Right.
You fold the paper over and then you unroll it and then you read this thing to see
the insane thing that
what the story has become. Yeah.
They have something like that in improv as well, you know, where you're telling a story. But in that, you at least get to know what happened before, and in your mind, you probably think, oh, well, logically, this is where we should go to.
Logic.
The sad thing about this movie is if it made, like you said, if A built on B in no uncertain terms had to lead to C, it would have been kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Because running into your buddy in the middle of a jungle, if that had a logical reason to happen,
totally
great. What if he knew that guy and he had ended up in that area because he knew he was around there,
right?
And then luckily his guys instead of the other guys got them
yeah.
and brought
like
them.
if he knew, like, oh, I know Corky was going to come to this area, and I'm gonna go find, like,
Exactly.
I'm gonna see if we can find Corky. Oh no, we've been captured.
Also,
oh, oops, it's accidentally Corky.
Jungle balloons.
Oh
also,
my God! There's a scene where, for some reason, Corky's car that he lets them borrow,
which is a bug,
which is a Volkswagen Bug in the jungle,
which makes sense. I
that
guess.
they're able to drive through the middle of the fucking jungle around trees.
It had a cow catcher basically on the front of it, and those are powerful cars. And they are not.
But I also want to point out that his car was like covered with blown up balloons that were then taped to the car. Yes.
I don't know.
Oh,
and
Lord.
they gave them a bunch of chickens and a pig.
Which they have this whole scene that takes like 45 seconds of them getting chickens and pigs.
And then the next scene...
Then they drive for 30 seconds, they stop, and they throw the chickens and pigs out of the car.
Because she's disgusted by them eating them?
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense.
Then they park next to a river, and they think that Leo gets eaten by a crocodile because there's blood on where he was washing the thing.
Which makes no sense because it's Central America, and that would be an alligator. Crocodiles are in Africa.
We can argue about that.
Thank you.
But that's fine.
Keep going. I'm
Fair
sorry.
enough.
I just really wanted to, like, make that thing known.
Haven't you ever been on the Jungle Cruise in Disneyland?
Yes.
I don't know what that meant.
I don't know either.
Evidence. And then they're like pissed about it, and they go back and forth with Patricia and Max go back and forth arguing like, we're never gonna get to that. You're a crazy person. But I guess I do believe you. Let's go get the gold. But I don't believe it. Just again.
And then he drives the fucking Volkswagen Bug into
a lake.
Into a lake. And then is surprised that the bug sinks.
That lost me completely. That was, I don't know, a Three Stooges bit or something like that.
Well,
that
that's what I think.
So
that's
confusing.
why I think they were trying to do comedy.
Well, especially with the score or whatever passed as a score.
Oh my God!
Like,
well, they did the rip off Axel F. Like do. They ripped that off like 9 times in like a bad version.
Weirdly toned stings in that segment. The part where they are on the train. There's so many different. I don't know scores for movies. Those are the last things that I usually notice unless they're bad. And because if it's done right, just like audio mixing and stuff like that, if it's done well, don't even realize it. If it's done poorly, you're like, ugh, that hits me wrong.
Well, that's one of those things that I talk about all the time when I'm talking about like theater or whatnot. Is like a good lighting designer, a good director, and I think a good editor, a good sound person, like
colorist,
your ultimate goal is to be invisible.
Yeah.
And it's only when you're visible is your job not being done correctly.
Absolutely.
Like if I can see your work, that means you fucked up.
Oh, very much so.
And that's just the nature of these kinds of things,
Yeah.
right? You know, going back to this idea of like, it's weird because I'm thinking about it like in retrospect, and like I actually really did dig the bar scene. I thought that was a fun scene where Chuck Norris kicks some ass.
Yeah.
I also thought like the stuff with Jonathan Rhys-Davies was fun, and like
it was, yeah.
There were a bunch of elements of this movie where I actually, now that I'm thinking about it, was like, oh, that was kind of fun. Oh, that was kind of fun. Oh, that was kind of fun.
But again, it's an unfinished puzzle.
Well, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
But I was so frustrated about everything that came before it that it was actually hard to have fun in the moment because I was like, what the fuck does this even mean?
It was a puzzle solved by a person with short attention span who just cut some of the pieces to fit
together. So
I've done that many a time.
Of course you have. So when we look at this movie then, I guess we always have to come to this question of like, what can we learn? Like, what is the canon here?
Ugh.
I mean, obviously Chuck Norris is canon.
Of course.
And J. Lee Thompson is canon. Like,
naturally.
Like obviously. But what can we learn as filmmakers from this particular canon film?
Well, I want to say that there was a style that I noticed from I've seen a number of these, and it's the lightening of the mood during a tense situation, and that's not exclusively canon, I will give you that, but it's like being aggressively pithy when something bad is happening. Like, even the bad guys this struck me in
sort of
right,
the marvelization.
right off. The marvelization, yeah, absolutely. Where even the bad guys chasing them at the very beginning were super, like, there are no stakes.
Yes.
To this at all. You know, we're just driving across the desert, shooting at people. Maybe I'll throw a grenade. Sure, why not? It all just seems so haphazard and stakeless, which is a vegan movie, you know?
Haphazard and stakeless. What we're saying then is, for us, what we have to learn from this is be specific about choices.
Sure.
And even if we want to lighten a moment, there's a fine line between lightening a moment and ruining a moment.
Because I think there can be someone in the room that their defense mechanism, or when they are in peril, are snarky.
Right.
You know, look at out of everybody in the Marvel universe, I would say that Iron Man or Spider-Man would be the ones that would be allowed to be snarky. Everybody else kind of, that's out of their character,
right? But
they're not in every movie, so they all sort of get that treatment.
Take that turn.
But you're right. Yeah, you have to choose. You also have to be consistent with character.
Yes.
Not just figure out who's going to make the joke or how you're going to make the joke without denying your stakes, but you have to stay freaking consistent with who these people are.
100%. I'm going to add that just don't write and then movies. Mm-hmm. And I think this is exactly what we're talking. I mean, I'm just rephrasing what you're saying in a way,
no, but
too.
That's the biggest thing.
Of, like, make sure all the connective tissue works.
Yeah.
So that way, as the movie moves forward, we can track it and we understand why we're in each situation.
I think it would have been fascinating if she had been, like, what if she had been a paralegal? And I know that I'm solving this movie with parts that don't exist right now, but what if she had been a paralegal? What if they had also cast a woman who had relatives or something like that from the areas, the Aztecs or the Mayans, something like that?
So, like, if she
then she inherits the map and the
vision or the dagger,
the vision and the dagger. So she gets the vision and the dagger and the map. Then we don't have to go to that first tomb. Let's maintain all of those guys too. Wouldn't it have been more interesting, because we haven't really talked about the very, very end, but wouldn't it have been more interesting if Coyote was controlling multiple people to defend him at the end in the last action piece, rather than him being able to randomly shut stone doors?
Or, look, I'll even throw out too, like, instead of having this weird opening of them just driving around the desert, they break into a tomb and they find the knife on their own, much like the beginning of the Indiana Jones movie.
The beginning is a throwaway joke to pay off at the very end, like, oh, these guys are always doing this crazy stuff, you know?
But, like, let's say they find the knife.
Yeah.
Just like Indiana Jones finds the idol, right?
Sure, yeah.
So they find the knife, and then she is drawn to them because they have the knife.
And she has the
visions of the map.
Yeah.
You have the knife. Let's go on this journey.
And let's have the map. I know this is a nitpick because there's a lot more problems in this movie, but let's have the map be what's driving them. You have to go to this one place rather than just wandering all the time.
I actually prefer that the VW bug was driving them because you can't drive a map.
Fuck you!
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Oh, God.
My name is Narful Pigwhistle, and it was nice to have you on the podcast.
Well, I think that's... I think we've I really do think that's a good place to end it. What else more is
what
there
else
to
can
say?
be said?
I mean, is he going to do another Rhinestone? Do you think Chuck Norris?
I don't know. I think Chuck Norris. I think we've passed the window of Firewalker.
Maybe
too.
So. Do you feel like it was set up for, as much as it was open ended? I think they're done. I think they were right to.
I think
to
they were
wrap
right to
that up because they didn't
be.
kill anybody off. But they did have that funny general come back as a waiter or bartender.
That's right. That's happened.
Again, that was a bookend. That was a stupid,
solid. Actually, that was a solid bookend, though.
Okay, fine.
It made like look when you track like I mean look, it was dumb as shit, but like and at least that was the one part of the movie where I was like, oh my god, cause and effect.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Of course, he's still searching for him.
Yeah.
Even if they are rich and powerful, and they only had 5 bags of gold, which
yeah, which
I
they
bet
probably
you.
went back for more. But yeah, so like I guess that's it.
All right, Nick. Next time, what are we doing?
We are going to do.
What is it?
I'm excited about this one.
Okay.
It's our first foray into a Tobe Hooper canon film.
Ah, yes.
I think it's 3 or 4, but we are going to go for the classic, The Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2.
Yay!
Which I'm going to throw out there might actually be my favorite of the Texas Chainsaw Massacres as far as rewatchability. Like the first one, scary as fuck. Second one, funny as fuck. So
Third one, forgettable as fuck.
what? But it had Viggo Mortensen.
Did it?
The third one, yeah, it did.
I know.
You were there.
I was forgetting.
I was. You were there with me.
I know. This was amazing.
Oh, see, I get it because it was forgettable as fuck.
Yeah, there you go. That's what I meant by it.
Yeah.
Okay.
You think you're cleverer than you are.
Thank you. Funny enough, we actually got to see this. I mean, not live because movies aren't live, but we got to see this in a theater.
Yeah, we did. We were very lucky. We got to see it down at the Egyptian. They were doing a little bit of a Texas Chainsaw retrospective where they showed the first Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Part 2, and Part 3. And we were very lucky that on that night, Caroline Williams actually was in attendance.
Super cool.
Yeah, she was amazing. She plays Stretch in Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2.
That's right.
She told a lot of great stories, a lot of fun stories, and
we'll retell them.
That's exactly.
Next week.
Yeah, we'll put them on the podcast as much as we can.
Indeed.
Yeah. So if you want to reach out to us,
it is creatingcanon at gmail.com, or you can follow us on all the things at creatingcanon.
I'm at nicholascpappas.com on the Twitters.
I am the AJ Hamilton on all of the stuffs. And as we end with all other episodes, and will continue in the future, good night and good canon. Okay. What are we doing? What is this?
So welcome to Creating Canon.
Oh, God. Okay.
Right?
Hello and welcome to... Do I say hello?
I think you do.
Maybe I do.